This morning on Houston Newsmakers, violence in our community and what it means when it spreads to a college campus. A TSU freshman was shot and killed in the latest incident of violence on the campus of Texas Southern University. Was enough being done to make the campus safe? And what more is being done? TSU President Dr. Rudley is here with answers. We'll talk more about crime on campuses everywhere and what can and is being done to prevent it with the Executive Director of Crime Stoppers of Houston and the head of U of H's Campus Crime Prevention Operation. And early voting sites in one county will be exactly the same on Election Day, with many more locations added. The new approach to making it easier to vote and how soon it can be coming to you.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
October 9th was a very bad day on the campus of Texas Southern University. Shots rang out in the parking lot of the TSU Oaks student apartments. Two young men were shot. One of them, freshman Brent Randall, was killed. Several days later, 22-year-old Jardis LeBlanc Jr. was arrested and charged with murder. Those events would be bad enough, but they were just the latest in what seems to have been a string of violent incidents on or near the TSU campus. What can be done? What's being done? And what will be done in the future to make the campus safe? Dr. Rudley is president of Texas Southern University, joins me this morning. Dr. Rudley, good to see you. How difficult has it been for you and the TSU family these last few weeks?
Well, it's been very, very dark days for us. I think we're starting to come back to life on campus. We're starting to get our swag back, but it kind of took us off guard at the beginning of the school year to have two shootings. And we were really planning to have a quiet year this year. I mean, we were building a new library for $60 million. We were building a new dormitory, and that's another about $54 million. And so we were just going to be working on a lot of budget issues this year with the thought of having pretty much a tamer year. And then all of a sudden we had the shootings.
It certainly changed things around for you quite a bit. What have you said to the family of Brent Randall? Here he was, a freshman student. He was excited about college, happy to be at TSU. They send their son to your campus to get an education and to be nurtured, and you have to let them know that their child has been killed. How difficult must that have been? What have you said to them?
Well, I think the public needs to know, in college world, there are 50 shootings on college campuses this year with about 33 deaths. And all the presidents, we take these students as our own, and we're a local apprentice. We're parents in the absence of their parents, and so it's been very hard for college presidents to have to talk to the original parents or the parents about what happened to their child, and it's not something that anybody wants to go through. And our blessings, Godspeed to her, Miss Mouton, and her family as they get through this incident.
When you have these things happen, like the October 9th shooting was one of the several of the last few months that was that several young people were injured. When these things happen, what was the process in terms of toughening standards in order to keep those things from happening? Were things done to toughen things up a little bit after the first? You
start from the beginning to see, well, what precipitated the incident. And here we had some individuals who were not TSU students who were on the campus. And these individuals were invited by TSU students to the dormitories. And they became embroiled in a conflict in terms of a basketball game. So what we've done is now we have a curfew in the dormitories at 11 o'clock. We have more patrols. We have 3 patrols just circling the dorm. We have the sheriff's patrols working with us. We've hired additional security. And we basically are now doing random checks of the dormitories as well. And the students don't particularly like that, but we figure it's necessary for us to get a hold of this situation where people are coming from off our campus and interacting with our students.
But students don't like structure sometimes when you come and you put that structure on them, but this is for their safety. Is this a permanent change, you think, or as permanent as you can make it at the point?
We'll leave it on until we feel that we're safe and they feel safer. I have to remind the students who are complaining that, all of us had to go through the TSA event when we had 9/11. So it's just a new life with extra security that's going to be put on. We're going to slap it on, and we're going to keep it on at least until the end of this semester.
Your police chief resigned or announced that he was stepping down this week, Roger Byers. He came to TSU at your invite. You got him out of retirement to do so. Right. Why did he resign now? Is this something that happened as a result of this, or has it been in the works?
Oh, Roger, about, let's see, 4 months ago, he had a medical condition, and he'd been thinking about whether or not he wanted to continue. So The incident, I think, probably encouraged him to go ahead and fill out his retirement, but he was working on this prior to the incident. But he's going to stay with us through this, and we got to have a continuity. And so he'll be there, and Ramon Green will be the replacement for him, and so they've been working together for years.
And Ramon Green has been the #2 there for this time?
Yeah, he's been the deputy chief, so there'll be a lot of continuity because we don't want to have any gaps in our security.
You have an interesting situation because Texas Southern is an urban campus, and up to now you've made some changes. This kind of the incident you've had over the last few weeks really has cast a pall on a lot of other things that have been going on.
Right.
Since you came in 2008, the TSU campus today is a lot different than it was in 2008, is it not?
Yeah, we had a vision for moving TSU from where it was, which open admissions university, the facilities were not kept up to speed.
And open admission means that anybody who wants to get in can come in without any grade point requirements.
Right, and we did that in 2008, and since 2008 we've done a lot of positive things to improve our brand. And so all in all, over 8 years, we've increased new academic programs. We have new engineering programs. We have an airway sciences program, for example, a maritime program. So we're trying to create an institution that responds to the global marketplace and put our students in a position where they can compete for the jobs in Houston and nationally. So we were doing that, and we were fully on our way. You know, when I first got to TSU, one of the students complained about financial aid, for example. And we have to understand that back in 2008, TSU was assessed a $13 million penalty by the Department of Education when I walked through the door for really not applying financial aid in an appropriate manner. In other words, giving it to students who really didn't fill out all the paperwork, who didn't perfect their right to get it. So our financial aid office is one of the places where we got a lot of criticism. So we have a plan where we're going to deal with that. We're going to create an entire welcome center, a new financial aid center just like the University of Houston has in its parking garage. So we have a way to solve some of the problems that the students are complaining about. Financial aid was one of the ones they complained about, and housing was the second one. And housing was a little surprising because we hadn't finished a new $50 million or $60 million 800-bed dormitory on time. And they were really criticizing the administration for not having built that dormitory in time for fall. But that was something the contractors kind of let us down on. Was fencing a part of that as well now, too? Because I know parts of the campus that didn't have fencing now do. Was that part of it? No. I started the fencing project in 2008, and we wanted to take each quadrant of the university and start to fence it, and we completed that project after about 5 years. And the point was to create a more safe environment where you could have choke points where people could come in and you can make sure you can control who came to your campus. Are you comfortable with the fact that you'll never be able to make it totally safe? I'm not comfortable with that fact. I think that as we deal with the fact that there's this whole debate about carrying guns, any president has to be concerned about the fact that students will come to our campus from communities where the culture is such that it's acceptable. I was watching Empire last night, and many people were watching that, and there was an episode where a Cookie pulled out a gun, and the person in the room with her pulled out a gun because two guys were trying to rob them. And it was almost like this was an acceptable thing for them to be, she called, "Are you packing?" So we have to really deal with that as a community about the concept of, you know, carrying guns in our communities. And when we recruit freshmen from different parts of the country, I'm hoping as a president they don't bring that same attitude about they have to carry a gun with them. What do you tell a parent who's thinking about sending their student to TSU? I think it's still a great institution. We're 87 years old, and over the course of the years we're still going to be there for students who need an opportunity to get a great education. Texas Southern will be there for them. And it'll be the same thing that Virginia Tech says. I mean, we're going to be there and provide the education that's needed. Dr. Rudley, thank you for coming in. We appreciate you coming in, spending your time. Homecoming week, so I know you're busy. Hope you have good luck in getting things back on track. Always good to see you, John. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the challenge of fighting crime on campus is more than a local problem. Crime Stoppers is taking it on as well. The surprising statistics about campus shootings nationally so far this year and what's being done locally to cut down on those incidents. I want you to take a look at what's been happening in 2015 on campuses around the country. There have been 52 shootings, among those 21 at colleges and universities, 15 at high schools, 10 at elementary schools, and 3 at middle schools. Others
were at preschools or school buses and left a total of 30 dead and 53 injured. Now, 6 of those deaths were suicides, and the term shooting does not necessarily mean someone was shot, but that there were shots fired. Here this morning to talk about those uncomfortable stats and what can be done, Rania Mancarios, Executive Director, Crime Stoppers of Houston, and Sergeant Dina Padavin, the University of Houston Crime Prevention Coordinator. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you as we talk more actively about what's going on here in these crime statistics that we're dealing with here. Tell me, what is the challenge that Crime Stoppers has? Now, I noticed that there's a lot more video on, a lot more things that I'm seeing on the air,
yes,
both on our station and in Houston.
Yes.
Are we having that much more crime, or are you guys just getting more aggressive and trying to get people off the street?
We are by far getting more aggressive. You know, our theory is this shouldn't happen once, not even once. And we need to be aggressive, we need to be active, we need to be in the schools focusing on a solution. What's really, really hard for me and for the Crime Stoppers team is when the country loses focus. They start discussing things that don't really pertain to a solution. We know, just analyze all these school shootings. It's simple. Look at them. These kids leave signs. Every single one of them has left a clue that they're about to do what they're going to do. So we focus on getting those kids to trust us, tell us if they see or hear or know that something's going to happen, so we can get in there and stop a crime before it can happen.
And Dr. Rudley was here and he talked about the crime issue that he's concerned about. And one of those Crime Stoppers pictures is one of the students, one of the people who caused some of the problems at TSU. So all of the folks can come in. Before we leave, of course, we'll tell people how they can get involved and make sure they can do that. Sergeant, let's talk about how much different it is for you on a college campus than it is from someplace else in trying to make sure that crime doesn't happen, or that you try to prevent it as much as possible. Is it a different challenge?
It's a challenge because students are focused on studying and getting through their classes. So there's a lot of programming that happens on the campus, and we have a challenge is how and where are we going to fit in our program. The students are involved in their student activities, so we take the opportunity and take advantage of sometimes they might be having an event in a student center, so we kind of invite ourselves in and say, hey, how can we get out there and be a resource to that event? And
you're an urban campus. You're not very far from Texas Southern University, so how similar are the challenges that you have, that TSU has, and what kind of things can you tell them or do to try to make sure the campus is safe?
Well, the students are, again, they're focused on trying to get their degree. They're pretty much focused on whether they have exams coming up. So we constantly remind them, hey, don't leave your stuff unattended. Hey, do you have our phone number in your phone? Hey, we have a security escort program. If you need us at night, just go ahead and give us a call, and we'll give you an escort from one location to another on campus.
Are you satisfied with the way things are there now? Or are you on the point where, like so many other security organizations, you're never letting your guard down?
We don't ever let our guard down. We're always trying to figure out what we can do better.
Rania, this process when you're trying to get the information out there, how helpful is it when you have these videos that have these sometimes very clear pictures? Does that put your rate up in terms of people turning people in?
It's incredibly helpful because we can give people something to look at, a tip, something that they can call and say, hey, I saw something, I know something. But beyond that, these criminals are not bright. They end up talking, they end up sharing information. Someone somewhere knows something, and they can always call us. Our biggest issue is getting into the schools, making sure students trust us, that they know we're 35 years old. It's always been 100% anonymous. It will remain 100% anonymous, and you get a cash reward. And at the end of the day, you're keeping your schools safe.
And that goes for colleges and high schools as well, right?
Absolutely. We're in the general population, and we're down to preschool.
Sergeant Padavin, what are your concerns about some of the laws that are upcoming now? Dr. Rudley talked about the fact now we're going to have open carry in this state as well, and of course campus carry is a whole different ball game. What kind of things are you as an organization starting to talk about already about that?
It's just that we just want to make sure that people have the open door, that they understand that we have that open door, that they can come and tell us if they see suspicious activity. We have a group now that's formed together so they can make that policy of where those guns can and cannot be. And once that's put out, then it's going to be an effort on the police and us as a whole community to make sure and ensure those policies are adhered to.
Do you think that's going to make it safer, or is that getting into a category that I don't know if that's part of your wherewithal, but is it going to make the campus safer, you think, once that comes into play, or just makes your job a little bit tougher?
It's going to be a challenge for everyone because it's going to be new. So,
Rania, let's talk about Crime Stoppers. You've got a big gala coming up. Ted Koppel's coming in. You're honoring one of the legends in Houston as well at that event. Talk about that for a second and how people can, it's next week.
It's next Thursday. It's coming up next Thursday. Ted Koppel's coming in. We have about 700 Houstonians meeting us at the Omni Houston Hotel. We are honoring Dave Ward, and we're very excited because Crime Stoppers is celebrating 35 years. We're also celebrating the fact that we're building the first ever headquarters of a Crime Stoppers anywhere in the world right here in Houston. So there's so much that is going on at Crime Stoppers of Houston, your neighborhood nonprofit, as I like to call us, and we want people to be there. We want people to join us.
And I want people to know where you can get information. A reminder, Crime Stoppers of Houston, by the way, they're paying $5,000 for tips that lead to felony charges being filed or arrests being made of felony suspects. That's something we talk about all the time, sending out great video of people. Don't be shy. It's anonymous, and you say that all the time. Rania Mancara, Sergeant Padovan, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
We appreciate this. Good luck as you continue to get bad people off the streets and make it healthier and safer for us all. Well, coming up, early voting is underway right now, but most of you aren't doing it like it's being done in Fort Bend County. What's different? How much easier is it to vote? Fort Bend's elections administrators here to explain. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues.
APRC Channel 2. This is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
And welcome back to Houston Newsmakers. Have you voted yet? Well, in Fort Bend County, there's a new system in place for this year that's designed to make it easier for you to cast your ballot. Here to talk about it is John Oldham, the Fort Bend County Elections Administrator. Good morning, Mr. Oldham.
Thank you, Cambrell.
Good to see you here. So tell me, what's the difference between what is in place now and what was in place?
Well, for early voting, nothing's changed. Voters can choose their location, the hours convenient to them that they're open, and we stagger these things during the early voting period. On Election Day, voters can now choose among 78 Election Day sites rather than having to go to the one in their own precinct or the one to which they're assigned. That way they can vote on the way to work, on the way home, when they go grocery shopping, when they go get a haircut. They can grab one close to them, and there will be no wrong place to vote on Election Day.
This is the voting centers concept.
That's correct.
How did this come about?
Well, we've been looking at this for a number of years, and vote centers have originated in Colorado about 12, 15 years ago. They've got a lot of acceptance in Colorado, a lot of acceptance in Indiana, Tennessee, and we've been experimenting with them on a limited basis in Texas for about 10 years now. Lubbock County was the first to use them, and there's been a gradual increase.
Are any in Fort Bend County? Any in the Houston area doing it?
Brazoria County started it last May. They did the first. Galveston County's been doing it for a couple years. So there are other ones in the area who have already implemented this program.
So this makes it a lot easier for you not to go to the wrong voting location on the day of elections. It doesn't really matter where you go to vote.
Right. It will eliminate those provisional ballots cast as a result of voting in the wrong place, which could not be counted under Texas law. It will eliminate the frustration that people find by showing up at the wrong place. And some of that stemmed from the fact that we embrace early voting here. 70% of our presidential ballots are cast early and 30% on Election Day. But let's say your wife went down to an early voting site and cast her ballot, and on Election Day you go and you think there'll be a polling place there, and there may not have been. So now one of the things that came out of this is every one of our early voting sites will also be an Election Day site. So
and you said earlier that right now that the pace of early voting is actually up.
We're running about 200% over what it was 2 years ago.
And what do you attribute that to?
I think we didn't know the first day. You know, you don't know why things happen. It's not necessarily the city of Houston. That's what we thought might be driving it. But there's about a 200% increase in that area, but there's also a 200% increase in Cinco Ranch and Needville.
What advice do you give to Fort Bend County voters and those who are going to voting centers as they get ready to vote this time around?
I think the thing for them to do is visit our website, www.fortbendvotes.org. Take a look at the choices they have. Recognize that some sites, it's common sense, some of them are going to be busier than others on election day.
Right.
Use common sense if you're going to a polling place in a school. Don't go at 8 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and get caught up in the traffic. That's something else we did. We eliminated nearly 30 polling places that were in elementary schools, both for security reasons and for traffic reasons.
And now we have 78 places to vote.
We do.
Correct? So that's good to know. John, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you coming in, and good luck as we continue to vote like crazy in Fort Bend and elsewhere too, in Galveston and Missouri County, where we have the voting centers in place. We're going to put the information up for you in terms of where to go. 281-341-8670 is another number. We'll put all the information on our website where people can get information about voting in Fort Bend County.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Final thoughts and a look ahead to next week after this quick break. Gun violence is clearly a problem in our country. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. The question is what to do about it. In order to find the answer, we'll need to put all of our opinions aside long enough to hear and understand each other and be willing to collaborate to focus on a common goal. Until we can do that, the problem of gun violence in our communities, our campuses, and our country will go unresolved. If you'd like to join our social media Newsmakers conversation, follow us on Twitter at KPRC Cambrell, also at hashtag HOU Newsmakers. And if there's subjects or stories you'd like to have me take on, you can email me at HoustonNewsmakers@click2Houston.com. Thank you to my guests for joining me this morning, and of course to all of you for tuning in. You have a great day, and I'll see you back here again next week.